warp swallowed us whole, a maelstrom of swirling energies that twisted reality itself. My name is Sergeant Arion Voss, and I led my squad of Space Marines into the heart of the void. We were on a mission assigned by the Adeptus Astartes to investigate a disturbance in the immaterium that threatened to spill its corruption into real space. Our drop pod hurtled through the fractured barriers of reality, and when we emerged, we found ourselves in a realm that defied all logic. The colors were beyond comprehension, belonging to neither the visible nor the invisible spectrum. Our visors struggled to process them, as if reality itself rejected their chromatic existence. The geometry was impossible, shapes folded into themselves in ways that made no sense, shifting as if space itself had forgotten how to remain constant. The air thrummed with discordant vibrations, a sound without a source, an endless, wavering frequency that never found equilibrium. Sometimes it was rising, sometimes fading, but it was always wrong. Even the stars, if they could be called such, were not mere celestial bodies. They loomed in the abyss like watchful eyes, expanding and contracting in unnatural patterns. Perhaps they were alive. Perhaps they were waiting. The squad moved in tight formation, bolters at the ready.
We are Space Marines, the Emperor's finest. Forged in the fires of war, trained to resist fear, to stand unwavering against the horrors of the galaxy. Our minds are fortified with faith, our bodies enhanced beyond human limits. We do not falter.
Even for us, the warp was a place of unsettling uncertainty, a realm where no amount of training or strength could grant absolute certainty. It was not fear that gnawed at us, but something more insidious, a whisper of doubt, a question unspoken. The objective was simple: find the source of the disturbance and eliminate it. But as we ventured deeper into the shifting labyrinth, a creeping unease settled over us. Voices murmured in the recesses of our helmets, speaking of forgotten nightmares and ancient horrors. Brother Darian called over the Vox.
"Sergeant, the warp! It's pressing in! It feels like it's alive!"
Keep your focus, brother,
I replied sharply.
The Emperor's light guides us. Do not let this place break your resolve.
The first sign that something was amiss came when Brother Garin, our heavy weapons specialist, began to mutter incoherently. His eyes darted around as if following unseen specters, and his fingers twitched on the trigger of his heavy bolter. I ordered him to pull himself together, but the warp had already sunk its claws into his mind. As we pressed on, the very fabric of reality seemed to warp and twist around us. The corridor we traversed elongated and contracted, playing tricks on our perceptions. Shadows danced in the corners of our vision, and the air grew thick with a palpable malevolence. The walls themselves seemed to breathe, pulsing with an unholy rhythm that matched the whispers in our minds. We were no longer in control of our destiny. The warp held us in its suffocating grip. Brother Garin's mutterings grew louder, more deranged. He spoke of demons and forbidden knowledge, his words a mad litany that echoed through the squad's Vox channels. I could feel the unease spreading like a contagion among my brothers, a creeping sense of dread that threatened to tear apart the bonds of brotherhood that held us together.
"Sergeant Voss, they're here, watching us, waiting for us,"
whispered Brother Garin, his voice trembling for the first time ever. I couldn't believe it. It couldn't be fear. But could it be madness? Could one of us truly fall?
Enough!
I barked, stepping in front of him.
This is the warp's trickery. You are a Space Marine. You will not falter.
But even as I spoke, I could see the doubt etched into his face, the seeds of corruption already taking root. As we reached a cavernous chamber, the source of the disturbance revealed itself, an ancient artifact full of warp energies. The air shimmered around it, and the whispers grew into agonized screams. Brother Garen fell to his knees, his hands clutching his helmet as if trying to block out the voices that assailed him.
By the Emperor.
Brother Darian muttered, his voice barely audible.
This is no relic. This is a curse.
I ordered the squad to destroy the artifact, to purge it with holy fire. But as we raised our weapons, the immaterium itself retaliated. Nightmarish entities emerged from the shifting shadows, their forms ever-changing and grotesque. The squad opened fire, bolter rounds tearing through the warp-spawned abominations, but for everyone we felled, another took its place. As the battle raged, the whispers from the artifact grew louder, now deafening in my mind. The air seemed to vibrate with its dark will, and I felt my strength falter.
Sergeant Voss,
Came a low, distorted voice, clear amidst the chaos. I turned to see Brother Kale, his helmet cracked, his eyes glazed as if staring into an infinite abyss.
the Emperor's light. It's gone. We're already dead, Sergeant. Why fight it?
Brother, listen to me.
I shouted over the din of bolter fire and demonic screams.
You are a space marine. We do not yield, not to despair and not to the warp.
But his gaze did not meet mine. He clutched his bolter to his chest like a penitent holding a relic.
They speak the truth.
He murmured.
The warp is all there is.
Before I could stop him, Kale stepped toward the artifact, his movement slow but unwavering, as if pulled by an unseen force.
Brother Kale, no!
I roared, but it was too late. His form disintegrated before my eyes, consumed by the artifact's energy, his final scream merging with the unholy chorus that filled the chamber. In the chaos of battle, Brother Garen tore off his helmet, revealing eyes that glowed with an unholy light. His once proud face contorted into a rictus of madness as he uttered dark incantations in a language not meant for mortal tongues. The warp had claimed him, body and soul.
Brother Garen, fight it!
I shouted, my bolter aimed at his chest.
You are one of us. You are a servant of the Emperor.
The Emperor?
Garen hissed, his voice distorted.
The Emperor has no power here. Only the Immaterium is eternal.
The squad fought valiantly, but the warp was a relentless adversary. Reality itself began to fray at the edges, its fabric unraveling like a tattered shroud. I felt the corruption seeping into my mind, insidious and persistent, whispering forbidden truths that threatened to unmake me. I fought to hold on, to my sanity, to my duty, to resist the warp's seductive promises. One by one, my brothers fell. Their screams echoed in the twisted corridors. Brother Darian fell last, his voice a prayer to the Emperor even as the shadows consumed him.
We die as his servants.
He whispered, his words carrying a faint glimmer of hope before silence claimed him. I stood alone, surrounded by the remnants of a squad that had descended into the abyss. The artifact still pulsed with corrupted energy, a beacon of the warp's malevolence. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of torment.
Sergeant Voss,
The voices cooed.
you have seen the truth. The warp is infinite. Join us, and we will give you the power to remake your broken Imperium.
For a moment, the temptation was overwhelming. Visions of glory and dominion danced before my eyes. But then the faces of my fallen brothers came to me, their sacrifice a shield against the darkness.
No, I will not betray them.
I growled, gripping my bolter. In a final act of desperate defiance, I unleashed the full firepower of my bolter upon the artifact. The chamber shook, and a blinding light enveloped everything. When the brilliance faded, I found myself back in real space, the warp's tendrils releasing their grip on my soul. I stood amidst the ruins of my squad, the stench of burnt ozone and the acrid taste of failure in the air. The artifact was destroyed, but at a terrible cost. I, Sergeant Arion Voss, was the lone survivor, condemned to carry the memories of my squad's descent into madness. As I made my way back to the extraction point, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed me out of the warp. The whispers lingered, faint but insistent, a haunting chorus that would forever remind me of the price we paid in the void. The line between reality and nightmare had blurred, and I, a space marine of the Imperium, had become a reluctant witness to the true horror that lurked within the warp.